my younger Canadian friend Marcel Irnie. We already gathered a huge experience together producing stuff for your viewers.
Back in 1989, a senior official at the United Nations told the world that, quote, entire nations could be wiped off the face of the earth by rising sea levels if the global warming trend is not reversed by the year 2000. So you knew when you did it, when you got in your Suburban, look what happened now. Those were once thriving beach towns. Now they're dive sites. People are snorkeling over Malibu, looking down at Prince Harry's house. Here's one of Barack Obama's beachfront compounds. As you can see, it's now underwater. But wait, it's not underwater. Actually, it's fine. And Obama knew it would be fine. In fact, Obama spent more than $10 million to buy it, and that tells you how much he believes in global warming.
Even if you might be surprised by what I'm going to say, I feel the need of reminding you. I want to remind you that I'm a guy from an Eastern European country, Romania. That means thousands and thousands miles away from Canada and United States. Yep, and I feel the need to remind you that I'm coming from Eastern European country, Romania, a Christian one, Orthodox. I mean, I'm not not a Buddhist, I'm not a Zen, I'm not a Krishna. It happens that I'm a Christian guy, Orthodox. And now, the reason I want to remind you that I'm a guy from 1,000 miles away from Canada, Romeo from Romania, is that I'm gonna make a statement that will thrill you and your viewers. And my statement is that United States population is dead, walking dead. Not zombies. Zombie is something very ugly if you watch the Hollywood movies. No. But United States nation population is a dead population, walking dead one. And here's my argument. I used to watch Carlson Tucker from Fox News. He's not my brother. He's not my cousin. He's not even my compatriot. He speaks English as a native. I speak Romanian as a native. But why do I feel like blowing up when I hear this guy? And why the United States population sleeps in boots while he's talking?
Joe Biden's latest idea is that he, personally, is the only branch of government in the United States. No more separation of powers. Joe Biden has all the power. If the Congress, the Supreme Court, does something that Joe Biden doesn't like, he gets to simply ignore it and then do what he wants to do. And he can do this because it's an emergency. There's no time for democracy. We've got an emergency on our hands, and naturally, only Joe Biden can solve it. We don't have enough abortions. It's an emergency. You're not wearing a mask alone in your car. It's an emergency. Your kids aren't trans yet. It's an emergency. And of course, the emergency to top all emergencies, the climate crisis, which is a kind of ongoing 1,000-year emergency, and for that reason, very much existential, whatever that means. But trust us, it is bad. And the only solution to it is to hand Joe Biden more power. At an event today, Biden explained the details. Since Congress has officially rejected his attempt to take over our country's energy grid and plunge America into well-deserved darkness, Joe Biden will have to do it himself unilaterally. Now, how is that constitutional, you may ask? Come on, you know the answer. Because it's an emergency, dummy. It turns out that because Congress rejected Joe Biden's bill, and also because Fox News exists, Americans are dying by the millions from bad weather, which apparently this planet has never seen before, because actually the glaciers were not real. They never happened. That's an Alex Jones thing. What is real is existential climate change. Thankfully, Joe Biden is going to save you from it. Watch.
Today, I'm making the largest investment ever, $2.3 billion, to help communities across the country build infrastructure that's designed to withstand the full range of disasters we've been seeing up to today. Extreme heat, drought, flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes.
Now, he slurred the words, maybe because, as we told you, he has cancer. But if you listen carefully, you heard today that because of climate change, for the first time in history, it's going to be hot, and then it's going to rain hard.
Please make a resume or publish the entire speech of Carson Tucker, the last one. This one I will send you by a link, YouTube link. I'm confused. Yes, I'm thrilled. How can you be an American listening what Tucker Carlson discloses to you, and then having a beer, and then going to the job, and then hoping that some Bruce Willis goes on the asteroid and saves the world?
Actually, no one really believes in global warming. And that's why all the liberals in the United States live on the coasts, because they don't believe it. That's why many of them fly private, because the entire theory is absurd, and they know it. So be more like a dog. Ignore what they say. Watch what they do. Watch the real estate they buy. See if you can find Al Gore flying commercial ever. You can't, because the whole thing is a joke. But that doesn't mean it can't hurt people. Oh, it definitely can, and it definitely has. Gasoline is now unaffordable for millions of Americans. That's a life destroyer. That affects everything in the country. When the price of fossil fuels rise, so does the price of everything else. That's a life destroyer, and it's not accidental. The administration did this on purpose. And now they're gloating about it. They're rubbing it in your face. Can't afford to drive your truck anymore? Sneers our Transportation Secretary, Mayor Pete. Then it looks like you're going to have to buy a little electric car. Sorry.
The more pain we are all experiencing from the high price of gas, the more benefit there is for those who can access electric vehicles.
Together with Ben Affleck. Really?
Oh, did you know that? Did you know that you can't charge an electric car with a wind farm? How do you charge them? Well, you charge them with fossil fuels. That's also how you build them, with fossil fuels. It's pretty funny. Last month, a GM spokesperson, along with an executive from a Michigan utility, kind of let the secret out. Watch this.
Battery in this particular design is a T shape right down the center and across the back seat area. Because everybody thought we killed the electric vehicle. No, we didn't. It's alive and well.
So what's charging the batteries right now? What's the source of
Well,
electricity?
here, it's coming from the building.
I mean, is it what's our mix of power?
Oh, actually, Lansing feeds the building.
What's that?
Lansing feeds power to the building. So I don't know.
They're
I bet you they're a bit of coal. Well, they're heavy on natural gas, aren't they?
right now the car's charging off of your grid.
Right. It would be charging off our grid, which is about 95% coal.
Someday, let's hope historians find that tape and then just savor it. Get a beer, get a whole six-pack and watch it again and again and again.
Come on! Please publish this video of Romeo from Romania and let the United States people find out a message from an ordinary guy from an Eastern European country. An insignificant country close to Russia and Ukraine.
So today, Joe Biden didn't answer any questions about where the energy is coming from. In fact, he told us there's no time for debate because it's an emergency.
The UN's leading international climate scientists call the latest climate report nothing less than, quote, code red for humanity. Let me say it again. Code red for humanity.
Yeah. Americans, you are dead people. That's my statement and that's my decision. You cannot watch Tucker Carlson and sleep in your boots having a beer. Shame on you.
In the first quarter of this year, just a few years after the Berlin Senate declared a climate emergency, so-called renewables accounted for 50% of all German electricity consumption. So what happened next? Well, Germany can't keep the lights on and is very worried about winter coming. As the Washington Post put it, quote, Hamburg landlords are rationing hot water. Berlin may turn off non-essential traffic lights at night. Oh, no traffic lights. Oh, that's a civilized country. How's that working for you? In Great Britain, no country has ever evaporated faster in world history than that one. But in the UK, more than 90% of the population lives in a place where local authorities have just declared a climate emergency. Now, they have more urgent emergencies, it turns out, actual emergencies back here in the physical, non-theoretical world, where we need like traffic lights and power that comes out of the outlet. They're real emergencies. In April, the British government announced that the number of households in the UK living in, quote, fuel poverty now stands at 5 million. Oh, this isn't wartime rationing. The Blitz is over. This is right now in 2022. How about Argentina? In 2019, Argentina's government declared a climate emergency, even though, unlike China or India, it's not really contributing to global carbon emissions. Argentina produces about 1% of global carbon emissions. But they did it anyway because it seemed like the fashionable thing to do, plus ESG. We're modern. We're against climate. Well, today, what happened? Argentina is experiencing, well, there's no other way to put it, collapse. The collapse was not caused by a half-degree rise in average temperatures in the non-Patagonian continental area. No! It was caused by what it's always caused by. Spiking energy costs, which cause inflation. Inflation is now over 60% in Argentina. Argentina is now too broke to function. Quote, access to fertilizers and diesel is urgent to avoid complete paralysis, a farmers group in Argentina wrote to the government recently. Wait, farmers don't have access to fertilizers? What? How can you grow things without fertilizer? Well, fertilizer isn't environmentally friendly. And we've got a climate emergency, so no fertilizer for you. Oh, except that means no food, and then people starve. That happened in Sri Lanka, as we've told you repeatedly. We can't say this enough. In Sri Lanka, the government banned all fertilizers. As a result, food prices are up by 80%. In a poor country, that's not a small thing. Again, people starve. Is John Kerry contributing to the food bank in Sri Lanka? No, of course not. He's bombing off in his own plane to their global warming conference. How about the Netherlands, a rich country, the world's second largest ag exporter? In the name of climate, in 2019, the European Parliament declared a, wait for it, climate emergency in the Netherlands. So the government forced farmers there to cut livestock by 50% because cow flatulence. That's a huge, Sandy Cortez has actually done a TikTok on this, I think. Cow flatulence, huge problem. So we need what the EU called an unavoidable transition. What happened then? Oh, riots. Our leaders are telling us we need the same thing. Here, it's a climate emergency. It's code red. You have no choice. And they mean it. And you don't get to vote on it either because they're so for democracy that they're going to force it down your throat with no vote at all. What happens next? Well, poverty, chaos, and then the light.
Hey guys, this is Marcel Irnie with IrnieracingNews. Hopefully you took something away from watching Romeo, saying the US American people are the walking dead after learning about the climate emergency. I have a personal story in regards to environmental saving the environment, helping humanity, and that is with my own work, Amsoil Synthetics. So Amsoil is chemically derived synthetics, and when I combine with a quality filtration system, it's called a dual bypass filtration system, and use oil analysis once per year. I take a sample of my used diesel oil, and I sample my ATF and my differentials. I essentially will never change my oil again in this truck, the White Whale, which is the 2009 Chevrolet Duramax dually with the 6.6 Duramax, the Japanese diesel engine. And so I currently have 75,000 or 80,000 miles on the truck. No, 76,000 miles on the truck. And I have not changed the engine oil, the diffs, the ATF, anything since I first bought the truck in 2018, March of 2018. when it had 15,000 miles on the truck. So every year I take a sample, I change the oil filters, and I top up the oil from changing the filters. You lose a couple quarts. And the oil analysis keeps saying you're good for continued use, resample in 7,000 miles. And after doing these samples for so many times now for 4 years, the oil analysis, I use Analyzers Incorporated, they're now saying, don't check it every 7,000 miles, just monitor your trends. Your oil is good. In fact, the oil is getting cleaner and better, because when you first change your oil, you're gonna have 10% of the old oil left in there. It's just hanging on the gears, hanging in the engine, hanging on in the sump a little bit, the top end. And now, after kind of making it 100% chemically derived synthetic AMSOIL, on the parts per million spectrograph of the iron, the aluminum wear, well, there's not much aluminum in a diesel, but iron, all of the metals are actually, the wear has gone down from say 10 parts per million now to 4 parts per million per year in the oil. The oil is essentially perfectly clean. So I have saved the environment, reducing the waste oil by literally 100% forever. I don't ever plan to change the oil again, because the oil is being maintained viscosity, and the additives are being there in the oil. Your phosphorus, your zinc, your sulfur, which helps with metal-metal contact, your calcium, which keeps the engine oil clean, the total base number, which neutralizes acidities, acids produced by combustion. I'm not having fuel dilution, and I'm not having coolant. You can see all the problems ahead of time with oil analysis. I do this on all my race equipment, and obviously on vehicles and customer vehicles. So typically, I save my customers, reduce their waste oil by 80%, and reduce their downtime, and reduce the emissions out the tailpipe. The emissions will drop significantly down to like 2% versus the 7% typical emissions. The oil is not volatile. It does not burn up at high temperatures. It does not freeze at low temperatures. There's no wax. Your engine lasts longer. Your oil lasts longer. You're reducing your waste oil, or reducing your tailpipe emissions. The government doesn't give a shit about you guys. They don't tell you about this stuff. Nobody knows about reducing emissions and lengthening your drain intervals. The manufacturers want you to buy more vehicles. They want your engine to wear out. They want you to use thinner viscosities, like all the 0.20s and 5.20s they're recommending. You would never do this. You should be running 30-40 weights to have maximum protection, so the viscosity will stay a 30 weight or a 40 weight through its entirety, reducing the engine wear. You don't change your oil. You don't need new engines. You don't need new vehicles. The government keeps putting out these new emissions for diesel trucks. The CJ4, ultra low sulfur diesel. Well, it's just wearing out your parts of your engine now. You don't have any lubricity for your fuel pump, for your injectors. And now we need to buy additives to put in our diesel to lubricate the diesel fuel. They are reducing your fuel mileage by putting these emissions on these diesel trucks. Like, my truck's gonna get 11 miles a gallon with 13,000 pounds in a trailer, another 7,000 pounds trailer. When we can go get Q-Man's brand new Duramax, 2 years old now, and he's getting 8 miles a gallon. Worse miles because of the emissions, and the emissions make the engine oil run hotter. It's harder on the oil, it's harder on the engine, everything is backwards. The emissions are just money grabs for each individual politician as they go through their careers. So if everyone just did what I'm doing, you would not be changing your oil at least every 25,000 miles or 15,000 miles under severe service, and that's actually AMSOIL's warranty. It's 15,000 miles under severe service, or once per year. They warranty the oil. Okay, guys? And with oil analysis, the warranty goes on forever, because the oil analysis is the ultimate truth about what's going on with your engine oil and your engine. It's reading the life of your engine, reading the life of your oil. You're going to see your parts per million of iron just skyrocket. There's something wrong with my engine. You're going to see fuel dilution way off the charts. And you monitor it in a graph over every oil analysis. And these oil analysis companies do millions of oil analysis that they can see exactly the trends of your engine with all the other people, the customers in their database, so they can know exactly what, and say, hey, I see something's wrong with your engine. It doesn't fit with the database of that engine. So if you really want to help the environment, guys, you should be getting on chemically derived synthetics such as Amsoil. And there's really no alternatives because there was a lawsuit between Mobil and Castrol in 1999. Castrol used to buy its chemically derived base stocks for synthetic oil in 97, 98, and then they switched to mineral oil from Shell, did hydrocracking. They're cleaning the oil with hydro, blasting the oil with water to remove the impurities. And then they called it synthetic. Mobil sues them. That's not synthetic. And the judge declared that the term synthetic is a marketing term not based on its components. They don't give a shit about you, the customer, guys. They don't give a shit about the environment. Jesus, it's all about money. It's all about power. This should be a separate video maybe. I'll just tag this a little bit on the end. But Jesus, guys, if you think the emergency climate is going to be fixed by the politicians, you're wrong. It's created by the politicians. Even if it is real or not, it is not about fixing anything. It's about wrecking humanity. They're trying to break us down to reset it all. This is Marcel with Irnieracing News.